Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Giribharadhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Kala Chanji Radha Kala Chanji Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Govinda Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Jaya Shri Radhe. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Gauranita, Jaya Gauranita, Gauranita, Jaya Gauranita. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Shishyaga Chanji ki, Prabhupada ki, Jai Gaur Premanand. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Naranam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam. You guys can follow, is that okay? Naranam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiret Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. Oh my God. Tiryandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Hare Krishna everyone. Welcome to today's morning Bhagavatam class. Please accept my humble obeisances. I'm really thankful for this opportunity to give, especially on this wonderful verse, which I have some realization on it, and I wish to share that. Please do forgive me if anything comes wrong, but everything that comes good is from it's from the previous acharyas and all the wonderful devotees that I'm associated with. Today we'll be reading from Canto 2, Chapter 4, Text 18. If you want to repeat after me. Kirata Hunandra Pulinda Pulkasha Abhira Sumba Yavana Shadaya Yenye Cha Papa Yad Apashraya Shraya Sudhyanti Tasmai Pava Vishnave Namaha Kirata Hunandra Pulinda Pulkasha Abhira Sumba Yavana Shadayaha Yenye Cha Papa Yadapashraya Shraya Sudhyanti Tasmai Pava Vishnave Namaha Kirata Hunandra Pulinda Pulkasha Abhira Sumba Yavana Shadayaha Yenye Cha Papa Yatapashraya Shraya Sudhyanti Tasmai Pava Vishnave Namaha Kirata Hunandra Pulinda Pulkasha Abhira Sumba Yavana Shadaya Yenye Cha Papa Yadapashraya Shraya Sudhyanti Tasmai Pava Vishnave Namaha Kirata Hunandra Pulinda Pulkasha Abhira Sumba Yavana Shadaya Yenye Cha Papa Yadapashraya Shraya Sudhyanti Tasmai Pava Vishnave Namaha. Shall we start it? I do want to say, if you have any corrections for me, please feel free to go ahead. I'm also learning in this process. Okay, we'll go with the definitions. Kirata, a province of old Bharata. Huna, part of Germany and Russia. Andhra, a province of southern India. Pulinda, the Greeks. Pulkasha, another province. Abhira, part of Old Sind. Sumba, another province. Yavana, the Turks. Kashadaya, the Mongolian province. Ye, even those. Anye, others. Cha, also. Papa, addicted to sinful acts. Yat, whose. Apashraya, having taken shelter of the devotees of the Lord. Sudyanti, at once purified. Tasmai, unto him. Baba Vishnave, unto the powerful Vishnu. Nama, my respectful obeisances. Translation. Kirata hun. Do you guys repeat after? Or yeah, okay. So translation, we'll go one more. Kirata Huna Andhra Pulinda Pulkasha Abhira Sumba Yavana, members of the Kasa races, and even others addicted to sinful acts, can be purified by taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord. Due to his being the supreme power, I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Kirata, a province of old Bharatvarsha mentioned in the Bhishma Parva of Mahabharat. Generally, these kirtans are known as the aboriginal tribes of India, and in modern days, these Santal Parganas in Bihar and Chota Nagpur might comprise the old province named Kirata. Huna, the area of East Germany and part of Russia is known as the province of the Hunas. Accordingly, sometimes a kind of hill tribe is known as the Hunas. Andhra, a province in southern India mentioned in the Bhishma Parva of Mahabharat, it is still extant under the same name. Pulinda, it is mentioned in the Mahabharat, Adi Parva 174.38, viz. The inhabitants of the province of the name Pulinda. This country was conquered by Bhimsena and Sahadeva. The Greeks are known as the Pulindas, and it is mentioned in the Vana Parva of Mahabharata that the non-Vedic race of this part of the world would rule over the world. This Pulinda province was also one of the provinces of Bharata, and the inhabitants were classified amongst the Kshatriya kings. But later on, due to their giving up the Brahmanical culture, they were mentioned as Mlechas. Just as those who are not followers of the Islamic culture are called kafirs, and those who are not followers of the Christian culture are called heathens. Abhira. This name also appears in the Mahabharata, both in the Sabha Parva and Bhishma Parva. It is mentioned that this province was situated on the river Saraswati in Sindh. The modern Sindh province formerly extended on the other side of the Arabian Sea, and all the inhabitants of that province were known as the Abhiras. They were under the domination of Maharaj Yudhishthir, and according to the statements of Markandeya and the Mlechas of this part of the world would also rule over Bharata. Later on this proved to be true, as in the case of the Pulindas. On behalf of the Pulindas, Alexander the Great conquered India, and on behalf of the Abhiras, Muhammad Ghori conquered India. These Abhiras were also formerly Kshatriyas within the Brahmanical culture, but they gave up the connection. The Kshatriyas who were afraid of Parashuram and had hidden themselves in the Caucasian hilly regions later on became known as the Abhiras, and the place they inhabited was known as Abhiradesh. Sambas or Kankas, the inhabitants of the Kanka province of Old Bharat mentioned in the Mahabharata. Yavana was the name of one of the sons of Maharaj Yayati, who was given the part of the world known as Turkey to rule. Therefore the Turks are Yavanas due to being descendants of Maharaj Yavana. The Yavanas were therefore Kshatriyas, and later on, by giving up the Brahmanical culture, they became Mlechas Yavanas. Description of the Yavanas are in the Mahabharata, Adiparva 85.34. Another prince called Turvasu was also known as Yavana, and his country was conquered by Sahadev, one of the Pandavas. The western Yavana joined with Duryodhan in the battle of Kurukshetra under the pressure of Karna. It is also foretold that these Yavanas also would conquer India, and it proved to be true. Kasa. The inhabitants of the Kasha Desh are mentioned in the Mahabharata, Drona Parva. Those who have stunted growth of hair on the upper lip are generally called Kasas. As such, the Kasa are the Mongolians, the Chinese, and others who are designated. The above-mentioned historical names are different nations of the world. Even those who are constantly engaged in sinful acts are all corrigible to the standard of perfect human beings if they take shelter of devotees of the Lord. Jesus Christ and Muhammad, two powerful devotees of the Lord, have done tremendous service on behalf of the Lord on the surface of the globe. And from the versions of Srila Sukadeva Goswami, it appears that instead of running a godless civilization in the present context of the world situation, if the leadership of world affairs is entrusted to the devotees of the Lord, for which a worldwide organization under the name and style of the International Society of Krishna Consciousness has already been started, then by the grace of the Almighty Lord there can be a thorough change of heart in human beings all over the world, because the devotees of the Lord are able authorities to effect such a change by purifying the dust-worn minds of the people in general. The politicians of the world may remain in their respective positions because the pure devotees of the Lord are not interested in political leadership or diplomatic implications. Devotees are interested only in seeing that the people in general are not misguided by political propaganda, and in seeing that the valuable life of a human being is not spoiled in following a type of civilization which is ultimately doomed. If the politicians, therefore, would be guided by the good counsel of the devotees, then certainly there would be a great change in the world situation by the purifying propaganda of the devotees, as shown by Lord Chaitanya. As Sukadeva Goswami began his prayer by discussing the word Yat Kirtanam, so also Lord Chaitanya recommended that simply by glorifying the Lord's holy name, a tremendous change of heart can take place by which the complete misunderstanding between the human nations created by politicians can at once be extinguished. And after the extinction of the fire of misunderstanding, other prophets will follow. The destination is to go back home, back to Godhead, as we have several times discussed in these pages. According to the cult of devotion, generally known as the Vaishnava cult, there is no bar against anyone's advancing in the matter of God realization. A Vaishnava is powerful enough to turn into a Vaishnava, even the Kirata, etc., as above mentioned. In the Bhagavad Gita 9.32, it is said by the Lord that there is no bar to becoming a devotee of the Lord, even for those who are low-born or women, Sudras or Vaishyas. And by becoming a devotee, everyone is eligible to return home back to Godhead. The only qualification is that one take shelter of a pure devotee of the Lord, who has thorough knowledge in the transcendental science of Krishna, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Anyone from any part of the world who becomes well conversant in the science of Krishna becomes a pure devotee and a spiritual master for the general mass of people, and may claim them by purification of heart. Though a person be even the most sinful man, he can at once be purified by systematic contact with a pure Vaishnava. A Vaishnava therefore can accept a bona fide disciple from any part of the world without any consideration of caste and creed, and promote him by regulative principles to the status of a pure Vaishnava, who is transcendental to Brahmanical culture. The system of caste or Varnashram Dharma is no longer regular even amongst the so-called followers of the system, nor is it now possible to re-establish the institutional function in the present context of social, political, and economic revolution. Without any reference to the particular custom of a country, one can be accepted to the Vaishnava cult spiritually, and there is no hindrance in the transcendental process. So by the order of the Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the cult of Srimad Bhagavatam or the Bhagavad Gita can be preached all over the world, reclaiming all persons willing to accept the transcendental cult. Such cultural propaganda by devotees will certainly be accepted by all persons who are reasonable and inquisitive, without any particular bias for the custom of the country. The Vaishnava never accepts another Vaishnava on the basis of birthright, just as he never thinks of the deity of the Lord in a temple as an idol. And to remove all doubts in this connection, Srila Sukadeva Goswami has invoked the blessings of the Lord, who is all-powerful. Prabha Vishnave Namaha. As the all-powerful Lord accepts the humble service of his devotee in devotional activities of the archana, his form as the worshipable deity in the temple. Similarly, the body of a pure Vaishnava changes transcendentally at once when he gives himself up to the service of the Lord and is trained by a qualified Vaishnava. The injunction of Vaishnava regulation in this connection runs as follows. Arche Vishnu Shiladhir Gurushu Nara Matir Vaishnave Jati Buddhihi Sri Vishnu Namni Sabda Samanya Buddhihi, etc. One should not consider the deity of the Lord as worshipped in the temple to be an idol, nor should one consider the authorized spiritual master an ordinary man, nor should one consider a pure Vaishnava to belong to a particular caste, etc. Padma Purana. The conclusion is that the Lord, being all-powerful, can under any and every circumstance accept anyone from any part of the world, either personally or through his bona fide manifestation as a spiritual master. Lord Chaitanya accepts many devotees from communities other than the Varnasramites, and he himself declared to teach us that he does not belong to any caste or social order of life, but that he is the eternal servant of the Lord, who maintains the damsels of Vrindavan, Lord Krishna. That is the way of self-realization. So, any questions? I'm just kidding. Any thoughts? Just anything. Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
One thing that I noticed, especially in the purport, that kind of like made my ears perk up, is that Prabhupada kept using this word cult, Vaishnav cult, and even like propaganda, and especially here in the West, it's like those are very charged words, especially like Hare Krishnas in the 70s. Everybody thought we were a cult, but I was thinking too, like, even though my ears were like, what is Prabhupada saying? Also, I remembered that one time we had a class in Gainesville over hermeneutics, which is basically like the context or like the time, place, circumstance of different, specifically like religious scriptures. And so if you're taking like the context of that word cult, and you're just thinking culture, like what is Brahminical culture or like religious culture, it's much easier to digest. So, anyways,
That's
one thought.
That's a very good. I was also reading this last night. I was like, why is Prabhupada mentioning so much cult? And he even mentions himself in many places. Like, we're not a cult. We're not a cult. He says this many times, but still in the Srimad Bhagavatam he writes cult. I guess I'm pretty sure that wasn't a question. It was like your understanding of something you wanted to share, and I agree. Like that's also one of my questions as well. But I guess I kind of took it as like cult, as in when you spell culture, it's like culture. So I'm just thinking Sri Prabhupada just wanted to keep it short and just said cult. But I'm pretty sure there's more in depth to that for sure. Does anyone else share something? I don't know if I connected with you. I hope I connected something. Sorry, Prabhu, I should have looked more to the right. I didn't notice we had pure devotees everywhere. Yes. 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 Tradition. Nice. Gotcha. Wow, that's amazing. Huh. Yeah, that is. This is our tradition, and like I guess cult. I think it's just a very. It just has a very negative connotation to it, right? But in reality, like if you really simplify it with just the word definition in itself, it's just tradition. Like that's just what they do. That's just what we do. We're just following our scriptures as it's instructed. Did you want to share something, or okay?
I thought it was so cool that at the beginning he was giving all these different places because when we were looking over it, it's like I don't know what Hirata Huna Hurinda would be. So he was giving all these like definitions, even the way it's like written in the purport. Like I'm following along on the app, but like it's written like a textbook almost. Like this is what it is.
Oh,
this
yes,
is the
yes.
definition. This is where it is modern day. I thought that was such a nice.
Yeah, I was also amazed by how Sri Prabhupada speaks on these, because in the beginning when I was reading the translation, I was like, wait, what's all this? But then I was reading the purport, it just made more sense. I'm noticing we're kind of short on time. I'll try to be as quick as possible with some things that I wanted to share. Is that okay? I'm so sorry. Okay. So, just want to mention, yesterday it was discussed that like we need to pray to the Lord for blessings and empowerment before undertaking any task, especially speaking transcendental knowledge. So just want to relate to that as well with today's context. So not only, like, should we pray to the Lord for blessings and empowerment before undertaking any task, but we should also, Sri Prabhupada mentions that like a lot of this purport from what I've understood is that he's discussing on how important it is to have association. So also like not only should we pray to the Lord, but we should ask blessings from the devotees, receive their mercy as well, so that we can understand the Lord more. And some of the realizations that I've had from this is recently I got a chance to get to meet His Grace Mahavara Prabhu, and I asked him at the end before he left. He's Jabala Maharaj's secretary. So at the end before he left, I asked him one thing. I was like, Prabhu, can you give me some final instructions? Any last words before you leave that I can undertake? And he said 3 words. He said, well, he said something very short, which is basically always stay in devotee association. That's all he said. He didn't say anything else. I don't know how much you can grab from it. It was in the beginning, I was like, okay, that sounds so basic. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? But I meditated on it. I put in some thoughts, and I was like, wow, like I've noticed that like I'm suffering so much in my life, but it's when I'm associated with so many devotees near me, connected to me, and like that I can connect to. I forget all my trauma, and I'm just focusing on, wow, like they have so much purity, so much they're saying, so much they have to offer. And from that, I just like, I meditated on it, and I just firmly believe it's so important, so important to be in devotee association. And if we think that we can do everything by ourselves, we will be completely mistaken, because without their association, nothing is possible. Another thing I wanted to share with just in connection, Dishadimna, like in the morning, he told me, hey, look, the deity's got a new paint job. I was like, wow, that's amazing. But then I was thinking more of how many devotees were present today. And I was like, wow, so many devotees came. Imagine if nobody came and you were the only person there. How would you be able to find that deep interest in coming? Of course, you should always find the deep interest even when devotees aren't present. But when devotees are present, you just feel more ecstatic. You feel like I have a whole family with me. It's not me alone just sitting there and watching the deities, but also or taking darshan of the deities. But I have a family with me, and they're also dancing. So let me also dance. At least I'm a very, very I don't like rolling independently. I like to be very dependent. And so when I see other devotees dancing, I feel the need, okay, let me dance. Like for example, Dishadimdam was dancing, and I was like, oh, let me also dance. Let me go ahead and also move around. I don't want to sit there idly. So just like that, and I wanted to connect that because that's what Sri Prabhupada was mentioning in the purport, how in the beginning he says, even those who are constantly engaged in sinful acts are all corrigible to the standard of perfect human beings, right? But in the next, he says, the next line he says, if they take shelter of the devotees of the Lord. So without that if we do not take shelter of the devotees of the Lord, then we won't be able to surrender to Krishna like that. We wouldn't be able to we wouldn't be able to get out of these sinful acts of ours. But when we see devotees, we definitely see a change in us. Another thing that I wanted to mention was how it's just another connection that I wanted to make with Mahavira Prabhu. He mentioned that it keeps floating out of my head, but he was saying, oh no, okay. So he mentioned something. He said that basically when we chant and we keep on chanting, sometimes we're stuck. We feel like there's no growth in Krishna consciousness. But then he told me that, but the day we stop chanting for even a moment and we realize a bit of less, we lose some sort of not consciousness, but we feel kind of down. We don't feel that same happiness. That means we're growing. That means we're growing. That means we're growing up. The reason I wanted to connect to that is because if I wouldn't have known that if I didn't connect with Mahavira Prabhu, if I didn't connect with devotees, there's so much that Srila Prabhupada states, but sometimes it's so hard to grasp. But when we see different devotees, you'll see they bring up a whole new definition in it, and it blows my mind how much definition can be brought out even within a whole paragraph. It just never ceases to fails to make me realize that. Another thing that Srila Prabhupada mentions is how bhakti is for everyone. Bhakti is for everyone. It's not something about you're this or you're that. It's for everyone. I love that Srila Prabhupada mentions Jesus Christ and Muhammad. He mentions that. He mentions that directly. That shows in our scriptures that we're not into, for example, you can't be, you have to be a devotee of Krishna. You have to be part of ISKCON to be a devotee or to be a pure devotee. If someone Prabhupada accepts someone like Jesus Christ, Muhammad as a devotee of the Lord, then anyone can be a devotee. There's no you have to follow but. Obviously, I was just stick to that point before I get out of context with my stuff. Yeah, it's just anyone can be a devotee, but it just requires that whole touch, that connection with another pure devotee, and so that they could help us realize they could. Obviously, love is always dormant in our hearts, it says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Mahaprabhu says, love is always dormant in our heart. Krishna consciousness is dormant in our heart. But sometimes it takes a bit of association to agitate that. I like to think that Krishna consciousness is dormant in our heart, but the thing is, it's covered with dust. When it's covered with dust, sometimes we brush it and it works, but when you have other people brushing it at the same time, imagine how purifying, how clear it gets. When you clean, let's say a big mirror and you're cleaning it. If you have someone else clean it, then it's together. If you clean it together, then it's you see it, it's much easier to clean it and understand and feel that love that we have within ourselves. And everyone has love within their hearts. And it's just a matter of where we direct that love. And if we can direct it, dovetail that love into Krishna consciousness, into serving, then we can for sure, we can for sure connect. If we direct that love into Krishna consciousness by serving, we'll surely come into trying to becoming a pure devotee at the least, Well, we're all pure devotees. We're all trying our best. We're not just sitting there. Obviously, you couldn't come here to listen to me just because, or you didn't come to take darshan, more importantly, because I mean, you could have done many other things. You could have done many other things, but you chose to come. That was your decision. That wasn't something that was forced upon you. Um, Except for the Christian House students, just kidding. um, uh, but um, but even more, if we can enjoy that presence of being, coming and doing that service, then surely we'll be more connected together, and find that love, that pure love, that Krishna, being our Father, who is wanting us to, because that's what it says, our whole purpose in life is to go back to home, back to Godhead. And if we can just, and Krishna wants us, he wants to grab us, but he doesn't want to force it. Lately, I've been in the mood of where I don't want to do things that I want to do. No, I don't want to do things that I need to do. I want to do things that I want to do. So I can connect. I hope everyone can connect that way. That we want to do things. We don't want to be forced to do things. And so Krishna doesn't want to force us back to him. He wants to see our desire. And so even a little bit of desire that we have, he'll surely bring us back, without a doubt. But it's a matter of, do we have that desire, that little bit of desire to go back to him, to serve him in that way? I'll sort of end there. And I know Srila Prabhupada speaks a lot on this, on how Mahaprabhu says that, Pritivita Chajata Nagaradigram Sarvatra Prachar Habimoranam. There's so many towns, and villages, and I want my name to be preached everywhere. My name meaning the holy name. So if we can, preach that and follow these instructions given by Srila Prabhupada and Mahaprabhu, then we'll also be associating with them. So not only are we associating with ourselves as a family, but the more we read Srimad Bhagavatam, and I was having this realization this morning as well, as we were doing Guru Puja, we're actually associating with Sri Prabhupada. It's not that we're just dancing and we're just doing nothing, we're just chanting and dancing. No, we're associating with Sri Prabhupada, and the more you read and more you understand these translations of these wonderful bhajans, you'll feel more connected. Okay, I'm doing this for this. This is the reason. This is my purpose. It's not that I'm just just sitting there and just doing whatever that the cult is telling me to do, but rather I'm doing this because I understand it more. And so the more we connect with Sri Prabhupada through Bhagavatam, and the more we sing to the Lord, the more we connect to the holy name by chanting, the more we can actually associate with it. And as we associate with the right, pure-minded, that which is pure, then surely our hearts will also be pure. And it's just a matter of that your will, do you want to? And I'm not forcing anyone. I'm just saying what the scriptures are speaking. Anyways, I'll leave it up to that. I know we're at the end. If there's any questions, I would love to. Or more importantly, feedbacks would be very nice. I don't know if I have the answers to your questions. Yes, please. Yes. Nice. Your name? Malik. Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming. That was amazing. That was. I think that was the highlight. I think that was the highlight for sure. I wish the mic was there. Can anyone repeat that? Can you repeat that? Yeah. Do you mind repeating it? Just through the mic. It's just it gets recorded, and so we want to hear your voice.
Right. So earlier you mentioned that Srila Prabhupada had said of Jesus Christ and Muhammad that they were great teachers and they were great devotees, and you mentioned that there is no division among the faiths. In the purport to Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada also says that the ultimate religion is not faith, because faith can change from person to person, or even within one person, one can move from one faith to another, but the ultimate religion is service, as one serves the Lord.
Hey, bo, Malik Ki Jai.
Yeah, thank you for class. It was very nice. I definitely enjoyed hearing about all of these it seems like mystical, like fantasy races, but really they're actually just provinces in the world that we're living in. And I thought it was so interesting that he mentions that all of the countries of the world were kind of united in Bharat Varsha, and they all kind of followed this Vedic system in previous times. But there was a point in which these countries, they rejected the Brahminical culture, and that's why we can like see certain divisions today. But then, kind of the main theme of this verse is that even though they've rejected it, still like you never fully are able to just like cut yourself off. You know, like there's always a chance to come back, or a chance to you know, accept the Brahminical culture, or things like that.
Yeah, I like that. It was like, it's talking about kind of how they all came from one place, and each of them, like it was even giving sources. It was saying in this place in Mahabharata it says, in this like, and I thought that was so nice that he gave those sources. And then on top of that, he was saying like, you know, like they're all connected. Like they all started in one place before they all used to be one country. Like, not one people. Like he talks about they all had different personalities and different traits, but then eventually, you know, like they broke off and they developed other qualities, and but they still have that root. Like they still have that culture. So that's why you see all these like beautiful cultures and religions in these different places, but all of that is like connected to that same eternal culture that was pre-existing there like thousands of years ago. So, and they're just like kind of offshoots, like they're little, that was so nice, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say I just want to humbly apologize because I didn't speak on that at all. I just thought it was so much history. I'm like not a history person, but I appreciate that you guys focused on that. And you're right. I really like what you said. It's like there's so much variety everywhere. Like even in our in our world, there's so much culture everywhere. I really like that. Like Srila connects it with. Well, it is what it is. It is as it is. It is as it is. That he says that the Greeks are this. There's a term for it in the Bhagavatam specifically, rather than like it's not just made up like what we made up, but he had a connection to it. Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay. I do. Please do forgive me if I've made any offenses. Ki Jai. Jai. Panchakalpa.